Hey YouTube, it's Patrick, and I've been watching a lot of Danger Dolan lately, and it's inspired me to come up with my own top 5 list. What I'll be talking about today is the top 5 things I think are still holding Bitcoin back, so let's get right into it. People are still poor. Economy's not quite as good as people think, so there's a lot less disposable income going around. With the inflationary process that we go through with fiat dollars, has been kind of dragging, using everybody's extra money. So they don't really want to invest in something new because they don't have a ton of money laying around. Now, if it was back, maybe in the 90s, where money was spent a little bit more freely, Bitcoin might be a lot bigger than it already is. Bitcoin has made huge strides when it comes to where you can spend your Bitcoins yet. But however, it's still early in the game, and unfortunately not a lot of places still don't accept Bitcoin. I'm sure a lot of places are thinking about it. Maybe some still are implementing it. We've seen Overstock.com, Dell Computer, Dish Network, all accept Bitcoin. Now we have this new thing with PayPal, which I'm not too sure how that's going to exactly pan out, but they're saying that they're going to work with Bitcoin. So this is going to I guess a lot of online shopping are going to be almost all of your online shopping, because a lot of places accept PayPal. You can basically use Bitcoin now to shop. However, I'm talking about where you get to go into a store. Unfortunately, where I live at anyway, there is not a lot of shops or grocery stores or retail shops accepting Bitcoin. So unfortunately, I'm forced to use fiat if I want to buy goods from these stores. It's still just not that obtainable. If you could, tell somebody, hey, you want to try out Bitcoin? There's an ATM up the street. Go ahead, put in 20 bucks, you get Bitcoin, and buy something on the internet. See how easy it is to work. Transfer it to a buddy. Transfer it to somebody that lives in another country. It'd be really easy to do, easy to show somebody. Then, when you tell them the really way to buy Bitcoin, especially here in Ohio, Bitcoin ATMs, like I said, they made huge strides compared to when they came out. I remember when Bitcoin ATMs were just an idea, and now there's, lots of them in the United States. I don't know the exact number of how many Bitcoin ATMs are out there, but it's huge. However, I live in Ohio, and it's literally a Bitcoin ATM barren wasteland. There is none. I don't know if we have stricter regulatory laws here in Ohio. I know we do for buying and selling liquor with Bitcoin. It's illegal. I don't know if putting a Bitcoin ATM in Ohio is illegal as well, because I'm just shocked no one's tried it. It's such an open market. You would think it would work. And that's really the way, you're not going to convince somebody, hey, like, yeah, you want to invest in Bitcoin, go to the post office, purchase a money order, or link this site up to your checking account and buy Bitcoins that way. Even though these companies are legit and they're safe, people like the instant, we're Americans for goodness sakes, we like instant gratification, like, we want our Bitcoins right now. We don't want to wait 2 weeks and then have it transferred to us and all that stuff. We just want to, get it and go. So until Bitcoin makes strides with Bitcoin ATMs, there's still going to be, basically, it's going to help keep it a little bit smaller. And the more Bitcoin ATMs that go in, the more Bitcoin will explode. Another thing holding Bitcoin back is people are just scared. They're worried with their money. They see what they see in mainstream media about Bitcoin going bankrupt and these ridiculous headlines that don't even make sense. They see all the volatility, and they really, with even people that have money, once again their disposable income has shrunken slightly due to the bad economic times. So even the people that are doing well, they kind of like the safer bets, their 401ks and that kind of stuff. So people, putting a lot of money into Bitcoin right now is they're just too frightened. They don't really understand the technology. People don't also grasp onto something in the really early ages. For the mainstream adoption to happen, it's got to be everywhere. And then people will be like, oh, now I feel safe. I don't feel as risky or this and that. And as the price rises, eventually it will stabilize, and Bitcoin will go on, and people will be more apt to buy into it the more stable it becomes, because they won't lose a ton of money. And that's what people are mostly afraid of. And the number one thing still holding Bitcoin back is people still don't know what it is. I was on an interview the other day talking to this gentleman. He runs a small business, was talking about a website that he was creating to take payments on his website. And then, of course, I said, hey, did you hear of Bitcoin yet? Did you ever think about accepting Bitcoin? And he didn't know what it was. And this is a guy who runs a small business, and I would think people that run small businesses would be the perfect person to start accept Bitcoin, especially early on. One, because of the low transaction fees. Two, because of the free advertisement. There's always places covering the next person who's accepting Bitcoin. You're going to get more customers. He asked me, how many people do really hold Bitcoin? And I really couldn't answer that question because I really don't know how many people in the northeastern Ohio area hold Bitcoin. However, I think people would travel to stores just so they could spend their Bitcoin because they think it's cool and trendy, and they're enthusiasts and they're excited about Bitcoin. So I think you might get a little bit of traffic that you might not normally get as well. And like I said, it's really no risk because you can hire one of these companies that transfer your funds from Bitcoin to dollar instantaneously. It's not like you have to hold it and have to worry about the volatility of it going up and down. And so, this guy was no exception. It's not like this guy, it's like, haha, he didn't know what Bitcoin was. A lot of people still don't. I would say about 60% of the people I talk to, even if they know and heard of Bitcoin, they don't really understand it and all of its functions and its purposes and everything. So I'm going out with that. My number one thing is what's still holding Bitcoin back is, unfortunately, people still don't know what it is. So there are two things that didn't make my list, and that's the Chinese or the Chinese government. When the Chinese government was talking a ban of Bitcoin, it made the price suffer hugely. And recently, the Chinese were selling off all their Bitcoin so they can buy a new Alibaba stock. Once again hurting Bitcoin. However, they have hurt Bitcoin, but as much as they've hurt Bitcoin, they've helped Bitcoin. By buying all the Bitcoin early on that these people were selling. By building these huge Bitcoin mines and mining facilities that they really have helped Bitcoin. So they didn't make my list because I just don't think, although sometimes if the government comes out, the Chinese government comes out and says they want to ban Bitcoin again, obviously that's going to be bad news. But once again, it's just really a dip back. We don't necessarily need the Chinese. Bitcoin doesn't need the Chinese to succeed. However, when they are invested in the market and then they get out of the market, it does, you can see the fluctuation in Bitcoin. And the second one that didn't make my list, which I thought for sure I could work it in there. However, I've changed my stance a little bit as of right now. However, that can change in the future. But as the U.S. government is another one that could really put a damper on Bitcoin. And it seems as of so far there was the first, list of rules and regulations, but they haven't acted on those. It was just kind of right now they're throwing it around. Obviously, there's a huge negative reaction to it by people in New York saying that they were going to have to move out of New York and move their businesses out of New York. So obviously, New York's got to play this smart. Yes, they want to tax people, but you can't overtax people because they'll just leave. And what's better, a smaller amount of taxes or no taxes? Obviously, the New York would have to take smaller amount of taxes as opposed to none. So, the U.S. government, is kind of watching the Bitcoin and how it grows. So they really haven't become a negative factor as of yet. However, like I said, this could change. They could put some crazy law out there. But I'll give them credit right now for kind of putting their hands off of Bitcoin and letting it grow, and so they could fully understand it and realize how to interact with Bitcoin. But that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on YouTube.